Welcome friends. Friends, today I am starting with a new discussion and of course it's a part and parcel of the residential status, and that is residential status of HUF. Friends, in my quite a good previous class, what we have discussed is residential status of an individual. Now I guess that friends you already know, and I already taught you also, that for different categories of person there is a different method of calculating the residential status. So now I am going to the next step, and that is your residential status of an HUF. Okay. So let me start. Residential status of HUF. Okay. What is the method of calculating the residential status of HUF? First of all, let me tell you what is HUF. So at least that basic hint you should have. So HUF full form is Hindu Undivided Family. Hindu Undivided Family. This is basically what we call it as a family concept. See friends, in India we have this concept of family status. For example, if father, son and maybe mother, when these people come together and do some business, do some activity, they are given a status. It's a family status, and if they do family business, so it's like a separately assessable person. That means it is like a separate taxpayer. So Hindu Undivided Family is recognized in India from the tax law purposes because we respect family concept. And if there is any family, so family business, let's take an example like that. So for the taxation of that family business, it's a separate taxpayer, and separate taxpayer means separate residential status. Okay. Very basic thing, let me tell you that as the name by itself suggests, it is Hindu Undivided Family. So only Hindus can have that. People who are not Hindus, they cannot have that. For example, you can say Muslims, Parsi, they are governed, Christians, they are governed by separate personal laws. So those people cannot have HUFs. And India, friends, is the only country where we have the concept of HUF. Okay. China don't have CUF. Pakistan don't have PUF. Okay. So India is the only country in the world which recognizes family as a taxpayer entity. Okay. So it's a family business, and the family business, we consider it as a separate assessable entity, and this is how we got to understand. Okay. So I don't want to go into the depth of what is HUF because that's not part of the discussion right now. So let's proceed. Okay. Residential status of an HUF. So it's a family. Here you can be resident, you can be non-resident. Okay. If the control and the management is fully outside India, I repeat, here the control and the management of the family is fully outside India. So here it's not that number of days stay. Okay. It's a test of control and management of the business. So if it is fully controlled from a place outside India, then it is going to be regarded as a non-resident. Okay. But if it is controlled or management wholly or partly from India, or rather I should write only partly or wholly, but that means it is from India, so that's okay. From India, that means even a single fraction of the business decisions. Control and management is by itself a separate discussion by the case laws, where the courts have always said that the control and management means it is a pure control, the pure decision of the business, the hardcore decisions, not the administrative decisions. So the hardcore decisions of the business is taken from India, so they are going to be regarded as resident. Okay, so here it is a test of control and management. Okay. However, for resident and ordinarily resident, however, if the karta of the family satisfies 1 and 2 additional conditions, which is same as that of individual. If the karta of the family, now let me tell you what is a karta of the family. Karta of the family is basically the head and brain of the family. The head of the family, okay. So just think about your own family. So you, your sister, for example, and your father, mother. So 4 people is in the family, for example. So who is the head of the family? Your father. Example, I'm just saying, okay. So father has to satisfy this additional test. If father satisfies, I repeat, if father satisfies this additional test, then it will be resident and ordinarily resident. Okay, but who will be HUF? Okay, so karta has to satisfy additional 2 conditions if required. Otherwise, it will be resident and not ordinarily resident. This is balancing decision. Okay, so karta, that means head and brain, the head of the family. That means the person who actually control the business. If that person satisfies additional 2 conditions, the same as that of individual, that is 2 out of 10 years and 730 days test. So if that is satisfied, you will be resident and ordinarily resident. Okay. So ultimately, how does it look like? In order to be resident or non-resident, it's a test of control and management. Okay. And for resident and ordinarily resident, additional 2 condition, which is same as that of the individual. Now friends, before I take up the question, I want you all guys to come to this material and I want you to make a small little note of this. So I want to show you that where this printed material is given to you actually and how are you supposed to read it. Okay. So understand this. Come to this page, friends. Oh my baby. Okay. See this, both the additional conditions 1 and 2. Okay. So I have clearly mentioned that this individual and HUF's karta. So this additional condition applicable to individual and karta of the family. Okay. So these 2 additional condition applicable only in these 2 situations. One is individual, other is karta. And here is HUF. HUF will be resident or HUF will be non-resident. That's a title. Whole of the control and management is outside India. So it will be non-resident. In all other cases, that means if it is wholly and partly inside India, so you are going to be resident. Okay. And in case of HUF, if karta satisfy additional 2 conditions, so that I have already noted here. So this is additional 2 condition, friends, applicable only to 2 category of situation. I repeat, that is individual and the HUF. That's okay. So that's all for the HUF for the time being. Let us go to the question now. Friends, come to this particular page. Let me read the question. Question ID number 31. Head office of the RG, a Hindu undivided family, is situated in Singapore. Since 1980, the family is managed by R, who is a resident in India in only 7 out of 10 years preceding the previous year 9-10. Determine the residential status of the family for the assessment year 11-12 if the affairs of the family's business are wholly controlled from Singapore and B, partly controlled from India. So go ahead, friends, read this particular question. And this question, there is a good trick actually it is played. Good trick it is played to the students. I'll tell you that particular trick, but friends, before that you got to read the question. Okay. And many times such tricks can be played. Okay. You may feel that this is a printing mistake, but it could be a trick. Could be, I don't know. So this is a question for HUF. That is the first point brought to your notice. You are told that determine the residential status for the assessment year. That means your previous year is going to be 10-11. Okay. Previous year is 10-11. But if you see the second sentence of the question, the family is managed by R, who is a resident in India, only 7 out of 10 years during preceding the previous year, 9-10 given. No, suppose even if the test is to be given 7 out of 10 years or whatever number of years that you are resident, it should be given with respect to the previous year in the question, right? So it has told preceding the previous year 9-10. And that's a trick. That's a trick. I mean, this could be a confusion. Then students will be notching, oh my God, what to do? Then you will face a problem. But friends, you face this problem only when your concepts are not so clear under the law. And I've already told you friends that all these years printed in the question are all illustrative. I mean, this is a series of the years printed in this chapter in examination condition will be different. But everything you have to link with the previous year. So what is your previous year and before that, okay? So that concept will work well irrespective of whichever year printed in your question paper. Alright. So let's go to the next level of discussion. The HUF first of all becomes resident or non-resident based on the test of control and management. That is very much clear. So we don't need that number of days stay basically for resident and non-resident. We don't need those informations. It is a test of control and management. And if that test of control and management gets satisfied as per the provisions of the law, then accordingly you take the decision. Correct. So first of all, let's take up that particular decision. And only thereafter, we can go to the next level. Okay. So let me start with my question. ID number is 31. Residential status of the HUF. There are two situations given to us. However, this is for your better understanding. In examination condition, you have to write that paragraph type answer. But this is for your better understanding. I am just doing it here like that. Okay. So, if it is wholly from Singapore or if it is partly from India, they are the situation printed to us in the examination condition. So, if you read this friends question, determine the residential status of the family for this year if the affairs of the family, affairs means control and the management. That is the way of writing it, okay. So, affairs of the family, business are wholly controlled from Singapore. The word wholly, that means entire core decisions of the business is taken from Singapore or partly controlled from India. So, you can say partly from India, partly from India. That means it's not clear whether it is wholly from India or wholly from Singapore, but it's partly. Okay. So, how do we answer this? If it is wholly from Singapore, then you are non-resident. So, there is a clear-cut indication given in the question. But it is partly from India, then you are resident. That's okay. Now, if you are resident, you have to test the additional conditions. 1 and 2. This additional condition is exactly duplicate of the individual because additional conditions of individual and of the HUF is same to same, duplicate. Okay. So it is at least 2 out of 10 years preceding the previous year should be resident and stay in India during 7 years preceding the previous year should be greater than or equal to 730 days. Same to same test. Who has to satisfy this? The Karta. Who is the Karta? Karta is the head and brain of the family. That means the person who is actually taking the business decisions is called as Karta. Karta is actually the, what should I say, a traditional word. Karta is basically a Hindi word. Okay. However, in English, he can also be called as the manager of the family. English word can be manager because see some questions may print the word Karta. Okay, and some questions may say he is managing the business of the family, something like that. So English language, pure English language can be something like manager, something like that. And traditional words are Karta. Karta means ultimately who is controlling that particular business. Okay. Now come to the question, friends, back to back. Preceding the previous year 9-10. Just logical thing I am telling. Just logical thing. So ultimately you are discussing assessment year 11-12. Okay. So you are ultimately discussing previous year. Let me write here. So ultimately you are discussing previous year 10-11. So your before year is going to be 9-10. Before year is going to be 8-9, 7-8, etc. etc. For this year, you have already decided that you are resident based on the test of control and management. Correct? So you are already resident and you have already decided that. Shall I? Now, you are 7 out of 10 years preceding the previous year 9-10. Okay, so I'll just write this one. B3, B4, B5, B6, B7, etc. Okay, so you are how many years resident? 7 out of 10 years, but before 9-10. So before 9-10. So before this, you are 7 out of 10 years resident. So maybe you are resident. It is before this year given. But logically, before 9-10 is also before 10-11. No, but that is only 1 year difference. See, understand conceptually, because that's a trick played in the question. So if I say before 9-10, so 9-10 is before 10-11 because that timeline sequence goes in the same order. So with respect to this year, you want 2 out of 10 years resident. Logically, you take any year because you don't know exactly which 7 years out of the 10 years. But 2 of the 10 condition will get satisfied. Correct. So ultimately that was actually a trick. So you can write any 7 years you want. For example, if you want, you can write before 10 years, supposing I'll say B8, B9, B10. Okay, but I'll have to take one more B11 also. Because it is before B1. Now 7 years. Okay. Suppose you take 1, 2, 3 and 4 there. Any 7 years you write, no, the choice is yours. But you want to satisfy the test only 2 out of 10 years, that is before 10-11. That is a 1 year difference. So logically this test of 2 out of 10 years is going to get satisfied. Have you got this? But trick question which has played with you because you got to be careful and presence of mind is required, friends, that it is 7 out of 10 given before 9-10. But the question is for 10-11 previous year assessment year 11-12. And that's the only reason I am emphasizing on the concept of before. Because once you follow that, then this sequence automatically will be taken care of. And you guys will not do the silly mistakes in the examination condition, friends. Correct. So, I can say this in my answer. Okay, that this additional condition 1 is satisfied. Additional condition 1 is satisfied. But the data of stay of 7 years of the Karta is not given to us in the question at all. That how many number of days that the Karta has stayed during last 7 years, that data, that input is not given to me at all. So ultimately what I have to do? Ultimately what I have to do? I have to take the decision. Have you understood that? So I will say that since data is not given, the condition 2 is not satisfied. That means both the condition 1 and 2 is not satisfied. So you will be resident and not ordinarily resident. Because both the additional conditions are not satisfied. Have you got this very clearly, friends? So these are your situation, but let us write that theory kind of answer, because this kind of answer to write in examination condition will not be a good thing, friends. Okay. So let us write the theory answer. Okay. Situation 1. Where the business is controlled from Singapore. Since the business is fully controlled from Singapore, HUF is non-resident. HUF is non-resident. Okay. That's the first conclusion. If the business is partly controlled from India, since it is wholly or partly controlled from India, it is resident. Because ultimately answer in examination condition to write it in the statement form. So let's do it that way. Alright. Now the additional conditions one and 2 if satisfied by Karta, in English also I am just writing manager, and HUF will be resident and ordinarily resident. Then HUF will be resident and ordinarily resident. But in the question, details of stay of Karta of preceding 7 years is not given, stay of karta of preceding 7 years is not given, so it is assumed that both the additional conditions are not satisfied, and thus resident and not ordinarily resident. So that's a conclusion. All right. One independent note, trick in the exam or question, because that trick I just bring it to your notice. Previous year 10-11, previous year 9-10. So I will just write that before year. This is before 1, before 2. Year will be 8-9, 7-8. Six, 7, 5, 6, 4, 5, 3, 4, 2, 3, 1, 2, etc. I'll just finish off the sequence. Okay. 2000, 2001, before 3, before 4, before 5, before 6, before 7, before 8, before 9, and before 10. Okay, I got it right. Okay. So for this previous year, we have decided that you are resident. But 7 out of 10 years that you are resident, which is given to us in the question, look at this question, friends. That was a trick in the question. The 7 out of 10 years, the trick which is there in the question. So assessment here is this, but it is preceding the previous year 9-10 given to you. So 7 out of 10, that is preceding 9-10 given to you. That was a trick. Okay. So the data of resident 7 out of 10 is before 9-10. So I'll have to add one more year. D11 and 99, 2000. Okay, I'll have to add that particular year. And before this, 7 out of 10 years, you are resident. But again, the exact which 7 years is not given to us. Exactly which 7 years is not given to us. But you can take an extreme case also. You can take an extreme case. Supposing you can say that this is resident, resident. From the bottom line you may write resident, resident. 7 you have to write. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. But now if you calculate out of 10 years of previous year 10-11, that means 10 years here. From these to these 10. That 1 year I have to remove. So you want 2 out of 10 years. 2 out of 10 years preceding the previous year. So any you take, but that 2 years condition will get satisfied. I mean just the understanding, friends. You don't need to write these things in the exam. But just the understanding. So the condition 1 of the additional condition, that is 2 out of 10 years resident, is satisfied. But I guess that you have already got that particular trick. But that's only the presence of mind, friends, as printed in the question. So you got to be careful. Okay. So that's all, sweetheart. Now let's go to the next question. So this page number, chapter ID number is already seen on the screen, friends. So from there you can copy. Okay, baby. So next question. ID number 32. D is the Karta of the Hindu undivided family, and the control and the management of the family is wholly situated in India. It is wholly situated in India. On 30th April 2016, D went to Bangladesh for business purpose and did not return till March 31st, 2017. D did not go out of India any time before that. What would be the residential status of the Hindu undivided family for the assessment year 17-18? So D is the Karta. See, this word Karta is there. Read the question. The Karta is basically the manager. The person who controls or manages the business or the affairs of the family. So Karta, control and manage. So in order to decide resident, non-resident, you need the test of control and management for HUF. That's okay. And for additional conditions, we will test it with the Karta. That's the method provided under the law. So that is something which you have to follow. Okay. So the family is wholly situated in India. The very fact that it is wholly situated in India, you will take it as an answer that yes, you are resident. So I've already got the answer that you are resident. Because test of resident is based on control management. So that control management is satisfied, that's okay. We are fine, comfortable with that. Then you have to test the additional conditions. Additional conditions you have to test it with D, Karta. Why logically D, Karta? Because additional conditions are basically personal things like stay in India. So only that individuals can do that logically. And you have to test it for the assessment year 17-18. That means previous year 16-17. And on April 30, 2016, he went to Bangladesh. So on April 30, 2016, he has went to Bangladesh, 30th April only. He did not return till March 31st, 2017. Okay. So if you just logically think that April 30 he left. So April, about 29 days he stayed in India. So Mr. D, for the previous year 16-17, B is going to be non-resident. But that is not relevant. Because we have to test the additional conditions, and additional conditions is with respect to preceding the previous year, not the previous year. That means for the residential status of the previous year, you are applying the test to Karta. Karta is non-resident, but that is not relevant because for additional conditions for the HUF, you have to see preceding years. Have you got what I am trying to say? So that is one trick, friends, one trick. So what is told to you that HUF is resident. Listen very carefully. For the same previous year, HUF is resident, but Karta is non-resident for the same previous year. It is possible. Have you understood that? But for additional conditions, you don't have to see the previous year status. You have to see the preceding year analysis. So that could be a catch, friends, in this particular question, and that was the real catch. So students may think that, oh, the Karta is non-resident. Because Karta is non-resident, oh my God, so HUF also will be non-resident. You cannot say like that. It's not possible. Have you understood that? So, the first point which I bring to your notice, friends, come on, let me open up a new page, question ID number 32. Okay. Question ID number 32. Okay, my previous year is 16-17. Okay, just watch it very carefully, and this confusion or this complication, I am solving it. Okay, 16-17. Okay. Stay in India test is applicable for individual. For HUF, control and management. This is for individual. This is for HUF. The same previous year. Okay. However, the before years, before 1, before 2, before 3, before 4, etc. So you may say 15, 16, 14, 15, 13, 14, 12, 13, etc., etc., etc. You can go with the sequence. Okay. That before your data will be required for, what should I say, your additional conditions. Because here the question is for the HUF. Now, stay in India of individual is only 1st April to 29th April. Let me just check that. On 30th April, he went to Bangladesh. So, 30th will be counted. Okay, so on 30th April, he is going. The stay in India is 1st April 2016 to 30th April 2016. So, for 30 days, he is inside India. Thus, he is non-resident. But who is non-resident? Individual. Because less than 60 days, no, so finished. Less than 60 days, no need to further extrapolate the discussion. So straight away it is 30 days, less than 60 days. That means neither A is satisfied nor B is satisfied. Because A is also not satisfied and B is also not satisfied. But that is for individual. So this is Mr. D. Karta. But for the HUF, for the same previous year, but for the HUF and for the same previous year, it is a test of control and management. The control and management is wholly inside India, and thus you are resident in India. Because of the test of control and management. Have you understood that? Have you understood that very carefully? Because for HUF, the test to decide resident is control and management. Okay. Now I am making one extra statement and a very important statement. Now for Mr. D individual, I am saying that Mr. D individual is a non-resident. Okay. Mr. D individual is non-resident. So additional condition, there is no need to test. Additional condition, there is no need to test. Because if somebody is already non-resident, you don't need to test the additional conditions. Because additional conditions are tested only if assessee is a resident. But in case of HUF, additional conditions are relevant. Because HUF is a resident. But additional conditions is always with respect to Mr. D. Karta. So there is friends, a real good value in this particular question. Because for the same previous year, I repeat friends, for the same previous year, Karta is non-resident and the HUF is resident. And the details of the additional conditions is already printed. already printed and given to us in the question. I guess that this is very clear, friends. Okay, so now we are testing these additional conditions. We are testing these additional conditions with respect to Karta, but we are testing it for the HUF, not for his personal capacity. Because in personal capacity, that gentleman is already non-resident. Correct. So you got to be very careful, sweetheart. Very careful. And this part and this type questions from the HUF calculation of the residential status, oh my God, it's really valuable. Students normally will find it very difficult who just follow that mugging up kind of situations. You got to understand, and I already told you friends, that for income tax, or right now, maybe you have just started learning the income tax. When you go to the higher and higher and higher level, these small things will matter like anything. Take your own time, friends. I mean, no hurry. So now, let's think about his previous year's stake. Okay. Let us go back to the question. On 30th April 2016, this gentleman had went to Bangladesh, that is outside India, for business purpose. So Bangladesh means outside, for business purpose, and did not return till March 31st. He did not got out of India any time before that. Look at this statement. He did not go outside India any time before this. Any time. That means before this, he was always in India. That means you can say that before this period, before this date, he was always in India. So all the 65 days he was in India. Correct. So what I can do is, for all my before years data, all my before years analysis, I can straight away write stay in India. Stay in India is 365 days. Stay in India is 365 days, all the years. Because before this particular date, he had never gone outside India. So he was like a common man like you and me. All the years, whatever series you want to write. Okay. B5, B6, B7, B8, B9, whatever. Now friends, if you look at this kind of situation, both the additional condition will get satisfied. Because 182 days test he has already got satisfied. Okay. And so many days, you see, every year he is going to be resident. And 730 days test out of 7 years. But all the years is inside India. You take the total number is going to be very high, more than 730 days. So in the given situation, both the additional conditions will get satisfied. No need to calculate also, friends. In the back of your mind, in the back of your memory, automatically this particular answer will come. Correct. So let us write that particular answer now. So residential status of HUF. Particularly I am writing HUF. Okay. Karta satisfies both the additional conditions. So here you have to write those conditions on your own, friends, which I have already written so many times in my previous questions, so I am not repeating. So Karta satisfies both the additional conditions 1 and 2. Okay, and thus HUF will be resident and ordinarily resident. HUF will be resident and ordinarily resident. Full stop. That's all. Absolutely clear. So this was a very good piece of question where Karta status, HUF status, both opposite direction. Okay, and the question has asked you that you got to calculate status of the HUF. That's okay. Absolutely clear, friends. So come on, let's go ahead and see the next question. Okay. And now, first off, before I go to the next question, I want you all guys to come to this page, friends. And I want you all guys to make one more observation, friends. Okay. Before I go to the next question, small observation I want to make first, and thereafter I will go to the next question, sweetheart. Okay. So HUF, we have already studied. Residential status of an HUF, that we already studied. Okay. Now this is firms, AOP, Indian company, foreign company. Everywhere, friends, it is by and large the test of control and management. Okay. So if you see the partnership firm, the answer is same as that of HUF type situation, but the partnership firm do not have that what should I say, three status. They have either resident title or non-resident title. They don't have three status, friends. They have only two status. That means either you are resident or you are non-resident, depending upon the test of control and management. In other words, they don't have anything like additional conditions. So, whatever we studied the test of resident for individual and HUF, okay, and additional conditions, resident and ordinarily resident or not ordinarily resident. That means three status, we don't have it for firms, or rather for any other type of persons. Okay, so that one small observation before I go to the firms, AOP and all that kind of discussion, we should note it. We should note it very properly, because that is another area where we can do silly mistakes. Okay, so residential status types now. So you have resident and ordinarily resident. Okay, resident and not ordinarily resident, or you have non-resident. So if you say individual, if you say HUF, you can have these three, depending upon the situations. Okay, that depending upon the conditions that we have already studied. But others that don't have these three types. Others are either resident or they are non-resident, depending upon the test, like control and management and all that kind of things. Others means all others, firm, AOP, Indian company, foreign company, etc. They can either be resident or they can be non-resident. They don't have three status. They have only two status. Okay, and that's the reason from examination point of view, these difficult questions can only come from individual HUF types. Examination point of view, I'm telling. Because there only you have to do that extra working and calculations and calendar work and kind of things. Is that very much clear? Okay. So let's have that. First of all, now others discussion. Okay. Others discussion to be brought to your notice first. So if you say that you are a partnership firm, so your resident non-resident discussion same as that of the HUF. That means whole of the control and management is outside India, then you are non-resident, otherwise you are in resident. Same thing for AOP. Now Indian company is always resident in India. Indian company is always resident in India, full stop. So for them there is no test of control because you are an Indian company. So this is how the law apply that. Okay, Indian company. Now, foreign company, we have a test of turnover. That means big foreign company and the small foreign companies. So, small foreign company is always non-resident. This is for the sake of simplicity, that a small foreign companies are always, it is subjected to the test of the turnover. And if you are a big, okay, if the whole of the control and management is inside India, only then you are resident, because anyway you are a foreign company. So if your control is fully from inside India, so you will be resident. But if it is even partly from outside India, that means it is not fully from inside India, that means others cases, you will be non-resident. Okay, so in most of the others cases, there is a test of control and management, but Indian company is always resident and the foreign company is always non-resident, but that is a small foreign company. If it's a bigger foreign company, then we will call it as test of control and management. That's okay. Now with this, let me go to the next question first of all, as a matter of discussion, friends, and come to this page. Question ID number 42. X Limited is an Indian company, however it carries on business in USA, America. All the shareholders are resident of USA. Board meetings, annual general meetings are held outside India. What is the residential status of X Limited? It is an Indian company. Carries on business in USA. All the shareholders are in USA. Meeting is in USA. So logically what this question is trying to say, that it is being controlled from US. It is trying to say that. Question is trying to say that. Okay, but question is also saying that you are an Indian company. So Indian company is always resident in India. No matter whatever is your control management, because you are a Indian company. You are Indian company basically, that you are incorporated under the Indian Companies Act. And therefore, you are always resident in India. Okay. So let me just answer that particular point first. Question ID number is 42. Question ID number 42. Indian company is always resident in India. This is irrespective of its control or management. This is irrespective of its control or management. So it is always resident. So what is the answer? Answer is it is resident in India. Full stop. Okay. Let's go to the next question, which is also very good question on this particular front. Very conceptual question, friends. Let me read the question first. Question ID number 41. X is carrying on trading business in Lucknow since 1985. Business income of X during the previous year 2003-4 is 7,50,000. Moreover, X purchased a property on February 10, 2004 for rupees 20 lakhs and immediately from 11 February 2004 let out the property on a rent of rupees 25,000 per month. This income under the head income from house property. For the previous year 2003-4, his income come out to be 40,000. Very, very excellent question. Very, very excellent question. Oh my boy. Look at this provision. First of all, let me introduce some provisions to you. And after that, we'll discuss. Okay. So, I want you to focus little bit, friends. Focus little bit on section 6.5. Maximum attention required, friends. Maximum attention. If a person is resident for one source of income, for example, you have multiple source of income. For example, you have a property in London, one property in India. You have one business in India, one business in London. If you have more than one source of income, I repeat, if you have more than one source of income, then if you are resident for one of the source, then you are resident for all the source. You are resident for all the source of income. Put it differently, friends. The residential status. Put it differently, friends. The residential status is for the entire year and for all the types of income. So, for example, if you say that Mr. X is resident, for example, if you make that statement, what does that mean? You are resident for all your entire type. That means your entire year you are resident, and for all the types of income you are resident. You have not to categorize resident for, oh, this type income, resident for that type income. You have not to do that. Further, you have not to do like you are resident for 1 month, 2 months, because this residential status is always with respect to the year. So, this part of the question is testing this very conceptual provisions which is highly ignored by the people. Highly ignored by the people. But I bring it to your notice that if you are resident for one source, then you are resident for all the source. That means logically law is trying to say, I repeat, that you are resident and resident for all the source and for the entire year. Okay. Now question, trying to test your knowledge on this particular front. X is carrying on trading business in Lucknow since 1985. Business for the previous year 3-4 is this. So you have a business income. Just understand. I mean, it's because of the provision we have to do a little bit of toggling of our mind. Actually, such things we don't need to do, but let's do it. Business is in Lucknow. Where is it gone? Yeah, the business is already in Lucknow. Okay. So for business, you may say that you are resident. Then he purchased the property on February 10, 2004. So, property you purchased on 10th February 2004. So, this is going to be your previous year basically 3-4. Okay, this is this previous year. For 20 lakhs, immediately from this he let out the property. So, if you think the property is holding only for that February and March. That means it is less than 60 days. So, if you think from the property point of view, holding of property point of view, you are non-resident. Actually, we should not do that. We should not do that. But I am just telling you. Because 10 February and onwards, it's going to be number of days stay in India with respect to property. With respect to property is less than or equal to 60. So law says you should not do all these things. Should not do it only. No need to do. Law says like that. That because my one source of income started in between the years, I will calculate number of days of that source of income. But it is not that way. It is not that way. So law says that in any situation, you are resident for all the types of income. So you are doing business in India. Your business income is resident because business is inside India. Okay. So for business, you are resident. So for property also, you are always, when you are resident for all. That's all. But there is a provision for it. So friends, if question like this come, you need not do this breakup like this. This is wrong actually. What I have done here is only to make you understand. This is wrong. I should not do only this calculation for business resident, because residential status is with respect to the stay of this gentleman in India. I should not link my stay with the type of incomes and the type of properties. I should never do that. But the law has given an indication. It's rather more of a very professional kind of drafting of the law, where if some mind in our country would like to do this, suppose law says this is wrong, you should not do it. You are resident, that's all. So you should not break up your resident concept with respect to types of income, types of period, types of property, something like that. It is resident means resident, that's all. Have you understood that? So, there is a better professional way of answering this kind of a question. Better professional way, because see, if such question come in the examination condition, you have to answer. So, your answer also has to be written in a very particular way, pinpointing that section 6(5), which expressly clarifies that if you are resident for one source, you are resident for any other source, indirectly you are resident for the entire year and for all the types of income. Okay, so how do we write the answer? That's very important, friends. Okay, so we have understood that, but question ID number, what is that ID number gone? Let me check it up. That's question ID number is 41. Okay. I'll take a new page only. I don't like to write same answer on the same page now. One page only, one answer. Okay, question ID number is 41. I'll just give a title for your understanding, friends. This is residential status and more than one type of income. Okay. Business income, previous year 3-4, stay in India is full 365 days. Residential status, resident. Previous year 3-4, house property income, previous year house property income from 10th February 2004 to 31/3/2004. You may say that you are non-resident with respect to that income, because it is less than 60 days. So, I'm not calculating that exact number of days and all that kind of things. Okay. So, forget it. Okay. Now, the real part of the answer. As per section 6(5), where assessee is resident for one source of income, then he is resident for all the source of income. Thus, he is resident. Thus, he is resident. Logically, resident is for the entire year and for all the types of income. It's a logical conclusion that I am writing, that whenever you think about a residential status, it is for the entire year, it is for the whole of the assessee, and it is for the all the types of income of that particular resident. Okay. So, this is how the conclusion has to be developed. And here that indication of section 6.5 is quite relevant and important. Okay, so let me go and check out the next type question. Residential status homework types, but I will solve them also. But here these few questions, friends, first of all, they are duplicate type questions, so I just bring it to your notice. So let me just check. Again, this Nepal trip is coming because it is a very famous question, friends. Very famous question. So it is a duplicate. Okay, so that I am not solving it. X is a foreign citizen every year for 100 days. This is also a very famous question. That's the reason I have repeated also in my material. This is also duplicate. Some question like this we have already studied. We have already studied, no, some question type. So, duplicate. This is also head office of the Hindu undivided family in Singapore, managed out of 7 out of 10 years. Okay. This is also duplicate. Okay. So, actually this is in the homework section. Particularly I have given you because the very popular examination type questions. Okay. So, ID number 2, 3 and 4, it's just the duplicate of few questions above. So rather it is not even a homework type, but it is what we have already solved. But you should practice it. I mean, that's what I'm just trying to tell you. Okay, so it's for your practice. Okay, and thereafter, okay, this question ID numbers 81 and onwards. Okay, so I think I'll solve this ID number 81, but I'll take a break now and I will continue thereafter. Okay, so it's not that big kind of situation. It is a small one only, but I will take a break and after that I will continue. Okay, thank you.